Welcome back, everyone, to the Summer Showdown live here in Toronto in the Mattamy Athletic Center. The double L's are back, and boy, do we have a showdown for you. The #1 and the #2 teams in North America about to face off in our winners final. It's the San Francisco Shock versus the Dallas Fuel.
Now, you know, the San Francisco Shock coming into this, they are incredibly eager to rewrite history. The last time that these two teams met was in our qualifications for the Summer Showdown just before we all came here to Toronto. We saw Dallas Fuel defeat San Francisco Shock 3-1 in what many might have considered an upset. I was talking to Krusty very late last night. He was up all night planning, thinking, yo, how are we going to beat the Dallas Fuel? How can we turn this around? And honestly, when we look at these two teams and we think back to the previous matchup between them, it was very much boiled down to kind of a 1v1 between Edison and Kilo.
Yeah, and I think even the first map pick has its own story, but whether you have Proper versus Sparkle, or Sparkle, I don't know if anyone's going to even argue with me on this, the #1 Genji in North America. I mean, maybe the APAC boys will have an argument over whether this translates to the entire world, but man, Dallas Fuel have done a lot of growing, and I feel like not finishing first in that kickoff clash, this is their second chance to really claim the throne. In a rush meta, that fits them perfectly.
Yeah, coming into this, I had a couple of suspect tweets. Some people called me out on at the time, but I said that, hey, I think that Dallas Fuel are being underrated coming into this meta. Yeah, their mid-season madness was a little bit poo, admittedly, but they definitely turned it around in this kind of coordination-focused meta with their hive mind. On the other side, well, they're starting with a tremor. It's becoming a quake, and they're going for a crown. Ladies and gentlemen, the San Francisco Shock!
This is a team that's been on the top, always the bridesmaid, but never the bride. Always in second place, but now that there's no gladiators in their way, there's no Atlanta Rain, Dallas Fuel has been their final boss, and that 6'5" powerhouse in the middle. The mitochondria of the cell is Kaluj, who's brought his entire family. He's got the support not only on his team, the trust of his teammates, but also the crowd behind them. I'm excited to see if the Shock can make a #1 run this tournament.
Of course, we'd be remiss without talking about Proper's role in this roster. Heavily touted for Rookie of the Year. And some people even say MVP as well. Can you win both of them? I don't think that's ever happened. I don't know if it's allowed, but if there was ever a case to be made for it, it's Proper who is doing so. He has been lights out all year, whether it be on the Tracer, on the Genji, or even occasionally on the Sojourn. But the thing is, Proper needs to be set up for these kills by Kilo. And once again, I'm going to drag us back into that 1 versus 1. Kilo versus Edison. It was heavily favored for Edison last time these guys met in the regular season. And we need to have seen maybe a little bit more support for Kilo, or potentially some forcing out of Edison from angles to give Kilo space to work with to set up Proper for his killing blows.
Yeah, the Kilo versus Edison story of Kilo likes to flex between Sojourn and Ashe, while as Edison feels more almost exclusively on the Ashe, and that's kind of the biggest difference in styles between these two teams. Here's the Shock family in the crowd. I mean, it's been loud today. We've had some crazy matches, even a reverse sweep that just happened, but even both teams also got to enjoy the city. We ran into Shock, who were doing some shopping, and everyone is excited to be in a new country. The nerves now gone out of the way. But there's one team that the Shock have to face, their biggest opponent here. They're burning, they're igniting, 1, 2, 3, fighting. Welcome to the stage, the Dallas Fuel!
Superstar studded coming in blue, Edison, Sparkle, Hanbin, Fielder, and Chio. I think no one can disagree with me when I make the claim that Hanbin might well be the best Junker Queen in the world, baby. For those of you who are around for the Watchpoint pre-show, they had a pretty spicy graphic to show off when it comes to the killing blows. Man's on top, and he knows exactly when to be using those Rampage as well. Not only for maximum damage and forcing the opponents to disengage and mess with their plans, potentially bisecting these tight formations, but also giving himself enough healing from those wounds drains to be able to make those extra little couple of meters of play, find the right carnage, and maybe overextend himself into a position where you can really find the proper amount of damage to claim a fight.
I mean, Hanbin, like you said, #1 on Junker Queen, but the stats, the watch point pointed that out. But also, I gotta point out Edison's ponytail. Girl, put your hair up, put your feet up, because it's about to get messy. And I like to see that there's Texas fans here. And against the Shock, I think this is a primer for the grand final. I've always predicted that these two teams were going to face off, and we'll have to see if they'll rematch whoever decides to go to the lower bracket. Will they come back?
Yeah, belief in the crowd there for Chio as Rookie of the Year. I believe one of 2 rookies on Dallas Fuel alongside Gurio, who we've seen a little bit more over in mid-season madness. But it's an interesting dichotomy we've got between these two teams, because we have Chio on one side and Violet on the other. Violet is about as close to full veteran status you can get. I think it was a Season 2 addition to the San Francisco Shock and to the Overwatch League as a whole, but mostly known as one of the best flex supporters we have. Moving over onto the Lucio, he's been fragging pretty damn hard when it comes to these very specific mechanics, and there's a reason why you usually don't see people flex onto the Lucio, because he's got a burst fire projectile weapon that includes wall riding as a means to get accuracy. It's such a difficult mechanical skill set, and Violet's picked it up super quickly. Chio is probably already there when it comes to that kind of Lucio battle, but between them, who will be able to generate the beats faster? Because Violet's been doing a good job of that.
And you talk about flexibility, but how can we talk about that and not mention Proper? Everyone, you know, he's been absolutely pounding on the Tracer, and then you come into this Genji meta where you thought maybe Sam was going to step more onto that Genji role, but then they've used Proper, and he's looking incredible. What can Proper truly not do? But Sparkle, that is his best hero to date. He's probably the best Genji in North America. This is going to be a historical matchup. Our first map, Lijiang Tower. This has been a very interesting pick for Dallas Fuel.
Yeah, for Dallas Fuel, this is definitely a curious pick, at least, Lemon, because it's one of San Francisco Shock's best maps. And I'm wondering why Dallas Fuel decided to go here when San Francisco Shock seems so happy to just flex all of their muscles on the Lijiang Tower. Admittedly, for Dallas Fuel, it's been a little bit more commonly picked recently, so perhaps they believe that there's some kind of augmentation to their strategy which will prove to be viable, at least against the San Francisco Shock. Maybe there's been a good amount of VOD watching here as well to try and figure out where San Francisco Shock potentially overextend themselves or make plays that are too risky around this geography.
Yeah, because Shock picked this against the Vancouver Titans and Houston, undefeated on this map. This is why that's so weird. While as Fuel, they picked Ilios in their very first match against the Washington Justice, but that didn't work out. As we saw, they started 0-2. They had to force a reverse sweep in their very first match, so everyone was kind of shook. But then they went and picked Lijiang against London and slapped them around 2-0. So I'm thinking both teams, this is their strongest map, and this is going to set the pace for the entire series. The doors are about to open. Everyone, let's hear it for the winner's final, the Shock versus the Fuel.
To begin with, Lemon, we pointed out our hit scan DPS. Kilo actually almost already dead here on the Sojo. Not going to be a dash coming in from Sparkle to try and finish him off just a touch too far away, and of course helping out with those Symmetra teleports forward as well. But Edison's already putting down so much damage.
Edison is also untouched, but man, is he pounding, putting on a ton of pressure. Look at his spacing too. He's never letting Shock, mainly Proper, get ever so close to him. And Chio is in front of him. So was Hanbin, who's just trying to peel for Edison as much as they can. That consistent damage is important for the Ashe to provide, as the cards fall, we're left with a 4-on-3 in favor of the Dallas Fuel. The point still has not been capped yet, but a frontline still exists for Kaluj, as Hanbin has fallen early in the fight, and he'll be back soon. But Kaluj means he's going to put on a steamroll in our first fight and allow Shock to capture the point first.
Kaluj surviving longer was simply the difference maker there, and being able to peel from multiple members of the San Francisco Shock, using that commanding shout to give the overhealth that would just give that a little bit more sustainability for the eventual aura heals to catch up. And look at the difference in beat generation here between Violet and Chio. From the rookie on the Lucio to the world-class flex support, Violet is 30% ahead, and he could get super aggressive here. San Francisco Shock, they can make a tempo play with their beat and overwhelm the Dallas Fuel early.
Shock just taking cover behind this wall so they don't take accidental poke. But who's going to be coming in soon is that sixth member from the Dallas Fuel. Edison lets it rip. Bob established on the point as the Shock used the rally to burn the Bob down and hold on to the real estate that they have. Still no kills yet until Kilo unleashes a disruptor shot to slow Chio and allow that first pick through. 5 versus 4, and Fuel were not able to get the trades in time as it's Shock with 2 fights in a row.
Proper beginning to just tear through everyone, but of course, Kilo does so well as the Sojourn to tear through the bulb. You can just unload headshot after headshot into that mostly stationary target and continually build up the rails incredibly fast as well, because it sort of scales to the damage that you're doing. Now Kilo has the overclock ready to go, and Chio has multiple options as to what can be mitigated using this sound barrier, but it's not going to be easy to decide which is going to be the most pressing matter. It's likely going to be proper with the blade, but if Kilo pops overclock first, we can try and force Chio to react.
Blade coming up. We'll start with Kilo. If he can put some initial damage, he actually draws out the sound barrier from Chio. Proper holds on to the blade, and Dallas will know what's coming. They disengage to White Room. They'll have access to the Mega. They're taking complete cover. Kilo's just jumping into them. Kaluj by his side. Violet provides the sound barrier. It's a big investment for the Shock, and the blade from Proper never popped. But the Dallas Fuel heads, though, that's been popped. As Hanbin uses the Rampage to disengage, he catches Kaluj and Kilo as strays. But is this really winnable for the Dallas Fuel? It's only Hanbin alive and Chio on the point, while the Shock still have 4 members. Proper's not sure how this is gonna go. He has to use the blade. He cuts down Edison by the heels as Chio races back to spawn. 99% Shock looking untouchable in this first round.
Sparkle draws out the blade, but surely one man versus the world. The Shock are too heavy for the shoulders of Sparkle. Dallas Fuel will fade away as their light begins to dim. The first round of Lijiang Tower goes the way of the San Francisco Shock.
That is unexpected, but that is textbook ult cycling from the Shock. The tempo sound barrier, the proper patience on the blade, not even almost needing it at the end because they won. Kilo's overclock to draw out the Chio sound barrier. Kaluja's Rampage to pin Dallas Fuel into White Room, and Fuel were just so flustered. I mean, Hanbin used a Rampage when it was only 2 versus 4. I mean, this was chaos.
Now we head over onto the control center, Lemon. This is going to be about the choice of geographies and the choice of topographies for San Francisco Shock and Dallas Fuel. Who wants to make that first move onto a point? Because you are playing a slight lack of elevation, so the angles for your hit scan aren't quite as good, but it does provide a little bit more physical cover, so your Brigitte can be safer, and a much more risky dive for the enemy Genji. For now, San Francisco Shock look like they want to play for high ground, and Dallas Fuel, they'll settle for the low with the additional cover.
Edison on a Sojourn, which is a rare look, but that mobility on Sojourn is so important, especially if Shock are just constantly engaging into you. I think that's how that first round went, and they've already picked off Finn a headshot to remove the primary source of healing from the Shock, as the Dallas Fuel will cap the point first and win their first fight of the map.
I do wonder if Kilo overextended themselves there after losing Finn in order to like drag Dallas Fuel's attention back into a 5 versus 1. So 3 members of San Francisco Shock could escape with their lives and not give over additional ultimate charge. Alas, it was Edison who got the opening headshot. Sparkle's already dead though. This is big problems.
How does that happen? How do you extend like that? Really trying to farm the blade as much as possible. Sparkle exposes himself, but a smart disengage from Fuel. Instead of getting staggered and wasting time, you only have to wait for 1 person, so Shock will get the point back temporarily.
Both these teams so possessed with respect, but the disengagements are often taking precedence over the point control itself. Dallas Fuel move forward with a shout, but Kaluj is going to have the second one.
There's a shout as Fuel take control of server. They go immediately after Kilo, who disengages into enemy territory. The Fuel were able to go toe-to-toe, but it's Shock that stand tall in this fight and were able to defend and continue to hold the objective.
Oh, Proper right now. He is 10 final blows to 2 deaths. Meanwhile, Sparkle, 3 final blows to 7. At the moment, again, GDF in favor of what some might say is the Rookie of the Year, San Francisco Shock. They're going to give away these chokes and allow Dallas Fuel to move on in, hoping that someone will overextend again onto potentially a low San Francisco Shock member looking to finish off those kills.
A lot of focus on Dallas Fuel's supports. Finn and Violent only have 3 deaths. Fielder and Chio have a total of 9. So keep in mind of how that survivability, those resources are used and when they leave the fight. Point in favor of the Shock as the Fuel pose themselves, looking for any poke as Proper took a charge-up shot from Edison, but a body shot's not going to be enough as he holds on to farm up to the blade. But what kind of initiative does either team want to take? Support ultimate's available for the Shock as now they're getting pushed into by the Fuel, who've used the shout already, and it's the sound barrier from Violet. Now the rally from Finn. Proper unleashes the blade as he's ready to properly pound them as the Dallas Fuel can't survive. The Fielder rally canceled as soon as he pops in. And Proper shines!
The fateful katana slashes through 3 before Chio's beat can even hit the floor. Fielder Swap to Anna for a moment, now back to a break. There are 10% remaining between Dallas Fuel and Lijiang Tower based Oblivion on their own map, Pick Lemon, and Collusion Kilo stand in the way, laden with a Carnage, with a Rampage, and with an Overclock.
Dallas Fuel has really only won one fight this entire map, and Sparkle wants to make that at least 2. The Blade really didn't get any kills despite no support ultimates available from the Shock, but he doesn't want to make the same mistake he did last time of overextending and getting picked, because remember, even without Kalush, Shock could re-engage, but they disengaged to wait for their tank to get back.
There's a reason why these two are our top-rated teams at the moment in North America. The ebb and flow of Overwatch is in their veins, but disengagements are so strong. Sparkle can't afford to be first picked again. If you cast your mind back, that's what happened the last time when San Francisco Shock managed to gain control of the point. Overclock in the hands of Kilo now, and Edison's just better!
Edison differential 5-4, and not even an overclock. That was just a charged up Shock. Kilo stopped, but for how long? The point being flipped. Here, the Shock, if they get this, it'll be overtime, and Fuel, the weight on their shoulders without Hanbin, without that Rampage. They had no other ults to depend on. Sparkle tried to stop the flip. Now Chio has to jump back on to keep this going. Fielder's around the corner. He stays alive. The Rampage from Hanbin hits 4 of the Shock, but Fuel barely have any damage. But it's Hanbin who's a one-man army at the front. It's really anyone's game. It's a 2 versus 2. Sparkle around the corner, and Fuel are still alive!
1 man, 4 foes, and 1 flip of the point. With 4 people hit by the Rampage, just 400 healing coming over the course of the Bleeds Lemon. And now Dallas Fuel are in a defensive position, but San Francisco Shock, no, they're ahead on the support ultimates. Violet here could just try and bully them out by using this sound barrier early and forcing Dallas Fuel to disengage and give away the point again.
Proper Blade at the ready. Fielder pops the rally just to make sure they don't lose anyone as the shots surge into them. Soundbear and rally, the proper Blade. It goes after Edison to deny the overclock. He returns to server where the 2 and 3 remnants of the Fuel remain. But it's this fight will determine, are we going to round 3? Will this be a Shock map? But without those supports from the Shock, this is Fuel making a massive turnaround here on Control Center to force round 3.
Fuel were dead in the ground. They were fossilizing to oil. But reaching into the graveyard, I saw a monster reborn in the form of Hanbin. A 4-man rampage that turned around the fates of the Dallas Fuel. The #1 seed will drag us, kicking and screaming, to a 3rd and final round of Lijiang Tower. We're heading over to the markets, Lemon. And here's a quick replay so that you can all see how the monster was reborn, and note his health here as well, and how quickly it starts to reinvigorate due to all of these hits from a Rampage. That bleed drain is essential to be able to make this fight work.
That was Hanbin's best Rampage all map. Wasn't a fan of the disengage one last time, but it was 99%. You do what you can, but the way that Hanbin clutched up when I think one of his DPS was missing, you have Fielder constantly pocketing him. We go to round 3 night market, or maybe day market now, but either way, the score will be settled here and now.
Dallas Fuel opting to position on the point instead, and now we are once again back to the Sojourn versus the Sojourn. Edison knows that the Ashe is simply a touch too slow for the control game mode. We do actually have Proper beginning to make some inroads towards the left-hand side through the window. Might try and grab some attention so Collusion move in. What a
He
knife.
got pulled! Edison is in danger. He drops a disruptor shot. He's finished by Kilo. 5 versus 4, but Collusion way too much heat. And Finn is next on the chopping list as the Fuel take the first fight.
A clean fight for the Fuel. Even though it all started with that knife, Kalush got a little bit too eager trying to finish off Edison. And it meant that he could be surrounded from all sides. Dallas Fuel, they had that wrap around the outside. They had the physical cover so they could just peek in and out and freely lay down damage onto Kalush. Now San Francisco Shock. They are going to be given quite a bit of space here for free, and this will actually give Kilo a little bit of time as well to build up towards one of those rails to try for an opening pick again.
Just Fuel are trying to hide. They don't want to get accidentally picked off by Kilo, who's set up on the market side. Kalush is dangerously low. Fuel know this is their chance to engage, as Shock try to distance themselves away, but they couldn't save their tank player, as this is really shocked without that tank player, but Proper thinks this is winnable. It's a clash in the midfield. We're left with a 3 versus 3. Fielder knows this is winnable, but he was too low. He pops the rally, and this is the second one canceled for the Dallas Fuel. 45% though, they're gonna try and extend this as much as they can, and even pop the blade, and Chio believes in this dream! He drops the sound barrier to help out Sparkle, and Fuel has salvaged another fight against all odds!
Fielder might have had a bad read, but Violets was even worse. He doesn't even know what language he's looking at! It was beats interrupted and Finn slain as well. San Francisco Shock, this has began to snowball against some proper, almost staggered here. As 66% is reached for Dallas Fuel, and Hanbin's coming up way ahead of Kaluj when it comes to this rampage. Edison ready to join him in the killing fields. The overclock good to go, and nothing really to answer from San Francisco Shock. Proper's got a blade, yes, but there'll be so much damage that he has to contend with, and if he gets antied by Hanbin, dare he even move forward?
Positioning important for Fuel. They're spreading all out. They do not want Proper to just reset on everybody. They've identified Fielder's position. The dash in for Proper. He goes after the supports. Can't seem to go after Chio. Sparkle's doing the same thing back. Both Genjis have had 2 kills each, but it's the rampage from Hanbin that's made a big difference. Kalush 5% different, which has made a massive impact on this final fight. The Dallas Fuel take the map!
At the end of Lijiang Tower, Hanbin just about breaks 10k damage and breaks the heart of the Shock fans who reside within this stadium. The avatar of war, of wounds, and of victory for Dallas Fuel. Lijiang Tower, we wondered why they dare go to one of the best maps for San Francisco Shock, but it feels like it might well be Hanbin's favorite, Lemon.
This was Dallas Fuel's map pick. They said this is our crown to take. They missed it at the kickoff clash, and so did the Shock, but the Fuel are here to play. We'll see you after this. a showdown this has been so far. I mean, this started with a 100-0 win from the Shock in the first round, and we're like, oh boy.
Here we go.
And then Fuel, I mean, Hanbin clutched up on Control Center, and back-to-back rounds gave Fuel the win in the round 3, and then a pretty big difference between Proper and Sparkle in terms of the stats. 20 final blows for Proper to 13 of Sparkle, and several thousand in damage. At least 3K difference in favor of Proper, along with a lot more Dragon Blade efficiency there.
Yeah, between Proper and Sparkle, Proper definitely seemed to be doing a little bit more when it came to the Genji. But actually, the interesting stat to me as well is the lack of statistical difference between Kalush and Hanbin. Kalush was only like 300 damage behind Hanbin in total. But the fact is, Hanbin was getting the damage in the right place at the right time, and that seemed to be critical to Dallas Fuel being able to find these clutch fights and turn around matches that they really shouldn't have. Like, we all saw the end of Control Center, and we all knew, okay, well, back it up, boys. Should get map 1.
And Fuel's ults were kind of getting messed around too, whether, oh no, it was Edison that shot down Kilo's ult. Fielder had 2 rallies canceled. It was really chaotic, 99-99 at the last round, coming down to a 5% Rampage difference, where Kalush, I bet if he would have had it, he would have popped it first. But it was Hanbin that struck and found blood, and that's how Fuel were able to get the win at the last second.
And now it's San Francisco Shock, who opt to take us to Hollywood, of all places, Lemon. This is somewhat unexpected for me, because it's not been the best San Francisco Shock, man. I believe they lost this to the Washington Justice previously, and even in this tournament, they lost it to the Houston Outlaws. Yes. But maybe, I'm just going to postulate here some theoretical approaches. With this being such a good Ashe map, I think they might be trying to bait Dallas Fuel into playing the Edison Ashe, which in their last matchup between the Shock and the Fuel, the Edison Ashe was the real difference maker. But I think the Shock may have actually done a lot of prep for the Edison Ashe and be in a position where they're confident in trying to take it on, and that's why they're trying to take Dallas Fuel to a map where they think, oh yeah, it's Ashe in time.
It's Ashe in time. But these two teams faced off actually quite recently in the qualifiers, where it was a 3-1 win from the Fuel, and Shock kind of realized that they came to this tournament, they were going to have to do special adjustments for the Fuel, and maybe that's why they picked this map, because the last time Shock lost control against the Fuel, they actually chose Paraizu. So this is a different look, and not their strongest one after losing this to the Houston Outlaws, as you've mentioned. Finn goes for a sleep to see if anyone is poking around from the Fuel, but the doors are open now.
All right, as expected, Kilo going to be coming out here on the Sojourn. This is much better for trying to be more aggressive, Lemon, because the Sojourn's got all of that forward mobility, and meanwhile Edison on the Ashe is going to be much better at backtracking, getting some knockbacks to try and knock Kalush off course when he's looking for a Carnage. So Kalush's pathing here to get big Carnage efficiency is going to be waylaid by 3 separate loops.
Kilo's charged up, and man, he wanted to lock with Sparkle, who dashes to safety. The shout has been used first from the Fuel. Kalush and Hanbin at critical health, but Kalush and Hanbin now healed back up by the Brigitte players. As you see the Shock starting to establish themselves on the point. Fuel in the mini house. They want to recontest, I mean, ideally before the second tick, but the Shock are charged up and ready to go, and Fielder is in danger, surrounded by the Shock, as this has been 3 kills from Proper this fight alone to give Shock the point.
4-step process, Lemon. It goes like this. You move in with Kalush, you have him take a lot of damage and go into the safety of this little nook in the side. And then you get Hanbin to move forward thinking, you know what, I'm going to finish off Kalush. You put down the Disruptor shot behind him from Kilo, boop him into it via Violet so that Hanbin starts to take too much damage. Dallas Fuel move away into the canteen in order to heal themselves and hide themselves, and then you can take positions on the point, and they have to siege in with an Ashe, which is not the ideal. A great overall macro game plan from the Shock, but what do they have in store for point B?
I think Fuel at least are a lot more comfortable being able to defend this high ground with Edison's Dynamite, and Shock want to take shelter like below these roofs, but here's the Dallas Fuel drop. They try to go after this backline, and Kalush distances himself away as Kilo manages to survive the engage from Fuel, as the Shock are sailing away into the sunset, and now Fuel are playing cat and mouse, going back on the high ground so they have the jump and they get to decide when this fight goes down next.
Yeah, Fuel are a touch too late there. Hanbin's already popped a shot, which means that Kalush is going Dynamite for second. Sparkle's got a fairly safe position on top of the high ground here, and a nicely placed Dynamite will mean the San Francisco Shock have to swap over Violet's heals for a moment.
Oh, a sound barrier engaged from Violet. Proper doesn't want to pop the blade yet, hasn't found the opportunity at least yet. Was able to pressure down Hobbin and Fielder, and those are the two most important targets. So Shock are more than enough happy that they don't want to invest more ults. Staggering here, a staggering Sparkle would have been massive, but Shock haven't had their payload stopped at all through this journey.
Dallas will have a big problem here, and it's called disengaging from high ground at the same time that you're actually using your shout. Hanbin needs to use the shout after they get down from the high ground, because it means that Violet can use the amp up speed to disengage from both.
Rally from Finn. They're going after the Dallas Fuel respawns after the point beat cap, and this is a massive time bank, but Sparkle is hoping to cut it short. Pops the blade. Really just finishing off Violet, and now without support, Shocker left behind.
Shock might be left behind, but they forced Sparkle to use the blade here, and that's not ideal for Dallas Fuel because Edison has still been so thoroughly outpaced in this matchup that he's only 76% of the way to Bob. And now Proper's going to be able to bring out his own blade, and we could see some good target focus here for San Francisco Shock to try and force out a failed beat from Chio. Or before that, we've seen Kilo previously on Lijiang Tower force out the beat in advance by using his overclock to allow Proper a good beat afterwards.
Oh, Kilo has Sparkle right around the corner. He's popping overclock, and Sparkle respects it. Goes around the corner to hide as the Shock just keep pushing the cart. It's the Fuel that have to rotate at the front side. Remember, the Fuel are the defending team, and they're the ones who missed the bus. And as soon as they approach, I bet Proper has a blade with their name on it. Chio has to be ready and also not die. He sure be skating around. He drops the barrier before Proper pops the blade. But Proper's a little impatient. He waits for the barrier. He is shot down by Edison. No Proper blade today, boys. Shocker under fire.
It's a great response from the Dallas Fuel to focus fire down Proper. That was looking incredibly perilous after Kaluj managed to force out Chio's sand barrier with the singular use of the Rampage. But now Dallas Fuel, they can try and hold down these chokes, and when you're holding the chokes, you give a lot of room for Edison to work in this pre-fight poke phase and start to really strain San Francisco Shock's resources, like the shout they've already used.
Shouts exchange. Sparkle just finds himself in the middle by people. Shock when to go and punish that. Fuel step up to protect him. And oh, that's a four-man rampage from Hanbin. But how deep do the Fuel want to get? Sparkle in jail looking for prisoners, looking to lock up the Shock. But it's so hard to kill them when the shouts from Kaluj have been so perfectly timed. The Fuel extend and they're punished.
Shock drop him and roll, and Violet turns it around through the use of a sound barrier, but Lemon, this is going to have knock-on consequences, because now, what is there to deal with Sparkle and his blade? There is no sound barrier. Finn is still 20% shy of the rally. If Sparkle can pick his targets effectively, and the rest of Dallas Fuel move on to him, they may be instantly eviscerated.
At least you'll remember to touch the card, and the Sparkle blade is gone! Fielder's overhealth didn't come in time! It's a 4v5, but Dallas Fuel have the respawn advantage, but the overhealth from Finn will be massive. The survivability is just too much. Kilo's over, or not even overclock, he was just charged up, ready to go. Dallas Fuel just trying to anchor themselves to buy time for reinforcements, but Fuel have not been killing everything, and the Shock, they park this one with 2 minutes and 31.
Oh, Lemon, Kilo might be from the metric system, but this boy pounds. Sparkle absolutely dominated, decimated, and torn asunder by a well-placed rail shot. It needed to be Kilo. It needed to be answered, because the support ultimates were used so aggressively by Shock to break through that spawn hold and counter a massive rampage, a 4-man rampage from Hanbin. It dragged all of Dallas forward into these exposed positions, and Shock, they punished it so well. It feels like the overall positioning plan of a Shock here has been made quite a bit more easy by Dallas Fuel, occasionally getting a weird timing on some aggression. We've seen so many times that I've forgotten who's on the attack and who's on the defense, because Dallas Fuel are coming from nowhere to try and attack this car from behind.
Oh, Shock have been so good at punishing Fuel. I mean, how many times have we seen Sparkle blade and just it end up in nothing? Even when Sparkle is full health, and this is the moment, and I think the disruptor shot slowed him down, and Kilo lines up the shot. And I thought this was overclock, but he waited for this charge of shot for the perfect moment, and the Fielder rally, I mean, just came in too late. And speaking of punish, yeah, Sparkle's blade wasn't anything, but Proper is 15-1. Proper through this entire round has only died once.
Hanbin on the other side, 4 deaths. Well, basically everyone on the Dallas Fuel has 4 deaths apiece, with the exception of Edison. Edison now critically moving over onto the Sojourn, and Kilo's going to be matching that. So Dallas Fuel have figured out, okay, our pacing here with the Ashe is not quite ideal for going up against the San Francisco Shock, who live by the ebb and flow of the waters of Overwatch. We need to move over to something that can match that tempo, match that aggression, and match that movement.
Yeah, surprising to not see an Ashe Edison. But Fuel are on the high ground, just getting any poke they can, letting Edison get charged up, and Fuel are rotating through the left side. The Shock are already ready, and Fuel, they start closing the gap. Sparkle is harassing and dueling against Proper. Sparkle returns to the team to get packed up, because this fight, it's about to bang. Fuel looking for any opportunity. They start to step up. Kilo is in range from Sparkle. He hides in the mini pack room. He misses the charged up shot onto Violet. The shout starts from Shock as they look to unhouse the Fuel from this area. And Shock fall like flies without Finn. You're lacking in heals. And this is gonna hurt in the morning. The Fuel will get the point.
I think Hanbin there got a knife pull on Kilo while he was sliding away to make sure he just slammed into the doorway instead of escaping cleanly into the San Francisco Shock. An excellent opening pick coming, of course, from Chio, who expects for Lucio to be the entry fagger, especially against someone with the prolific reputation of Proper, who's dead again to Chio! Twice in a row! This man's got a vengeance!
I can still count Proper's deaths on one hand, so that's all that matters. I mean, he started with 1 and already doubling that this round. Fuel realizing who the real threat is, who is the big boss on the Shock. As the Fuel do some scouting on the high ground. Sparkle getting close to the blade, that's why he's showing himself so eagerly. But he needs to not get punished like he did on Lijiang Tower, and he's a lot more measured with how he approaches. Shock, they're on the high ground. They might even rotate to the right side building just to make sure they can protect Kilo.
Create some space for Kilo. Proper for now on cart duty. Oh, 3 people up at once. Sparkle already falling low.
The rally, the elevator push from Fuel. I mean, they could have just pushed the cart and waited for the Shock, but the Fuel wanted to take the fight on their own terms. It's the rally for Fuel, a 5 versus 3. And Violet the first to fall, there was no barrier to counter engage with, as Shock just hoped to survive and make something out of a point B defense without getting staggered from each other.
And taking this fight with only a rally is an excellent deal for Dallas Fuel. It's a bargain, one might say, Lemon, because now they can control the high ground, and San Francisco Shock, they'd have to invest heavily to try and take the high ground in terms of both the timing and the resources required. However, there are plenty of resources. The war chest is full. 4 ultimates good to go, and Kaluj just shy of the rampage. Can the sound barrier from Chio be forced out early, though?
Oh, at least you got the blade out early. Sound barrier from Violet overlayered with the Finn rally, and Proper with all the resources in the world. Chase after Edison. You just can't skate out of this one, boy. As a Fuel, they elevate themselves to the high ground, but Proper's ready to climb up. But Sparkle looked isolated. Proper doesn't really know who to go after at this point, but all Shock care about is that this cart isn't moving.
A massive expenditure already used. Edison has the high ground, or at least will do soon once he returns to his team. He was picked off a little bit early. You can see him towards the back right now. Gets up. This should be the moment for Edison to rain down death from above with the overclock. And San Francisco Shock going to have a lot of trouble actually dealing with this, because Kaluj, how does he get up there for an effective rampage?
Oh, Edison is going to drop, and Hanbin has to protect him. The overclock is popped by Kilo, and not Edison yet. And there is Edison. He tries to lock eyes with the enemies of the Shock, as the cart still has not moved. Seconds going by from the Fuel, and still no kills, despite the 2 overclocks being exchanged. But we have rampages online and no support ultimate. But the pressure has been mounting on the Dallas Fuel backline, and the rampage from Kaluj is just the cherry on top, as Shock will defend.
Kaluj did an excellent job there, hiding out in the jail. Smooth criminal waiting for someone to head on over and taste his axe. Dallas Fuel invested so much in trying to make that fight work. So much so, in fact, that they've started to round back upon their support ultimates that were used previously. Fielder almost have access to the rally, but of course, they've got to look towards the superstar. Some might say the best Junker Queen in the world, Hanbin, with the best ultimate in the game, in the rampage. San Francisco Shock, they might get instantly rampage here if anyone dares to move up that elevator.
Oh, if you want to go get some cart push, and then you just have Proper chilling out on the cart. Was it a deflag? I didn't even see where Sparkle was, but really good anchoring from Proper and leaving the rest of Shock on the high ground so that they're nice and safe, and Fuel only have 1 entry to that zone, as now you have both the Joker Queens colliding, and that is a pain sandwich delivered by Chef Hanbin. but the Rampage only forces Shock back. No kills yet, but Kilo at critical health as Shock takes shelter and closer to their respawns as Fuel are meters away from point B. They start the rally because they know Shock can recontest, and Fuel are trying to shut this right side door. Shock are on this left side, and there is no touch from the Shock, so Fuel's just cap point B.
Shock got close though. There will be an early fight here. 5 versus 5. All are surviving and already. The Disruptor Shock's been used by Edison to try and cut San Francisco Shock away from each other. Proper takes out Sparkle and goes even deeper into it. Back he wants Edison, but the escape is too good, and Shield has returned. But unfortunately, the Rookie of the Year sign needs to be torn up by that audience member because he's gone, Lemon.
That was really a good peel attempt from Chio, just going for boobs, adding on the whip shot from Fielder. But really, the biggest flub, Shock might pat themselves on the back for this fight win. Yes, they can go for a spawn camp, but Fuel have respawn advantage, and Shock should have tried to defend point B earlier.
However, when it comes down to it, every second that gets wasted now, Lemon, is gravy for San Francisco Shock. Already Dallas Fuel, they can't get a larger time bank here. And Chia might have to use an early beat.
Yeah, Fuel, this is a quick engage, but the sound barrier from Chio didn't hit Edison in time! Violence didn't save Finn, and that healing is what Shock desperately needed, but not if Proper's damage is too much to handle! He cuts down 2, and Hanbin is next! How does Proper do it? He saves it for the Shock!
Proper simply Gosu. Unlike anything I've ever seen. His blade control is masterful, and with great timing there as well to know just how Chio's sound barrier would dissipate, to give him the openings to find those squishy supports, tear open the underbelly of the Dallas Fuel, still had to move on back.
There's a blade from Sparkle, and there's no barrier. It's only a Finn rally, but Sparkle's been zoned away, but he finds Kilo hiding. No one kills all they need as the Shock wanted to rotate back to their defense, but now they're committed into this fight, and they cannot leave. And Fuel need to farm up these ults because they only have 1 minute and 1 fight left for point C.
Reset after reset, and relatively cheap as well. Still, Edison's going to be able to hang on back here with the overclock, and he's got good spacing here if he wanted to play on the left-hand side on slightly elevated ground. As San Francisco Shock need to move into his sideline to contest the car.
This is losable for Fuel. I mean, 43 seconds. They're probably going to want to get some poke in to build up towards the rally. The Rampage. Shock. Will they even start the overclock? Kilo is safe at the back as Edison can't even lock eyes because Kilo's around the barrier. Kilo exposed himself, but the Fuel kills come in, and all thanks to the rally from Fielder to keep them trucking, and so they do. The VIP parking lot there, and a 2-minute gap between time banks favoring the Shock.
But time is time, Lemon, so we go again here on Hollywood, our winners finals for the Summer Showdown here in Toronto at the Mattamy Athletics Center. Presented by Bell, this is already a treat. And I want to point out a little minutia play that actually was part of why Dallas Fuel managed to even cap point B, and was actually Hanbin getting super aggressive with a Carnage onto a Kaluch who was slightly overextended. But what they did is they had Hanbin pop a sub-optimal shout to try and intimidate Kaluch into making a little bit of a disengagement, but actually put a disruptor shot from Edison behind Kaluch to make sure that when he was disengaging was taking even more damage, and they could convert that into a kill, so they would not need the shout advantage afterwards. When it comes to the Junker Queen versus Junker Queen, the calls made by Hanbin and the Dallas Fuel macro understanding of that matchup can be the difference maker in many fights.
And the macro understanding is what's so awesome to see from the Shock, whether they're always just initiating fights, but the way they approached the end of point B was to sit on the high ground and drain the clock, because it was Fuel that did not want to just have Shock up there. They either had to take the elevator, and Fuel tried to push the cart, but then Proper was anchoring it. It's Fuel had so many critical seconds wasted, which made a big impact on the time banks at the end. We go into the second round with a Fielder, Sleep, a Sparkle, Widow, but nothing found.
A quick peek and back to the regular. Dallas Fuel seem happy with their choice here of the Sojourn. The Ash going to be left in the war chest for the moment. Remember, San Francisco Shock last time, they played a little bit closer towards the Mega, and they were actually out-rotated by the Dallas Fuel. Kaluch got caught by a Disruptor shot. And then the more cowed position by the Mini that they retreated to was easily piled into by the Fuel.
Fuel take the long way around. Disruptor shot to slow down the front line of the Shock and makes them activate the shout from Kaluj. But it's Shock that stopped Fuel from even getting close to the objective. And despite even not having Finn, it's no sweat off the Shock's shoulders.
And that was a great difference in defensibility there from the San Francisco Shock. Previously, they were much more prone to disengage. They went into the tighter area so we can take a lot more damage. Now, with only a couple of seconds remaining, Dallasville about to swap Edison over onto the Tracer just to get the initial touch here, Lemon.
He's gonna get there in time, right? Oh man, I'm gonna get a heart attack. I'm gonna have a heart attack. But Edison not getting, it's really just trickle damage. It's not the burst that they need, but it's something that can work. As Finn is the first to fall yet again for the Shock. And as the fight gets extended, Hanbin crushes his enemies. And Fuel start working towards that first take. And on the point is just Violet and Proper left to defend. 3 versus 2 in favor of the offense of the Fuel. And they're still trying to lock down Violet. And they finally do. As Proper, yeah, he's long gone.
He's off. He's liked it. On his bike, and San Francisco Shock will have to play for B instead. But what they know is that with Violet surviving so long in that 2 versus 5 scenario, there's a very good chance here that they have a big advantage on the B, and they'd be well placing that bet. 50% ahead of Chio. Violet right now can just force San Francisco Shock to bully the Dallas Fuel out of here, and maybe off of the cart as well. Go for the pro.
This pulse bomb could be a deal breaker, and he locks down on Finn, and it hits Kilo instead! Get down, Mr. President! But Kilo, we needed you all along! Kaluj is taking pressure, Edison behind them, it's overwhelming the Shock! Not a single kill from that defense happened, and the Fuel continue their journey!
I think Edison's pulse bomb actually stuck onto Finn's shield. He dropped the shield and it dropped onto Kilo afterwards. Fielder now has the rally, which is so important, Lemon, because it means that if Violet tries to get a tempo beat to brawl on the cart, Fielder can actually hold his ground there with that stacking health. However, you've got to look at Proper with the Blade, going to be matched by Sparkle very soon, and Finn's not going to be able to give the same burst, or rather sustained amount of healing that the rally's going to bring from Fielder.
Hanbin jumps in, force out the shout from Shock. They disengage back towards jail. The Violet sound barrier is there. Proper waits for the perfect opportunity. Chio's been removed. The Fielder rally tries to help the Fuel, but Shock have permanent damage, and they stop Fuel short of point B.
Excellent target focus there for San Francisco Shock. They intimidated Fielder away, so he played for his own life. The rally could not be shared. The bounty was not for all. It was true 1% capitalism. There's no trickle down here, Lemon. And San Francisco Shock will stop the payload at 92.63 meters. There's 3 minutes in the bank. In San Francisco Shock, they did get a very good time taking point A. To remind everyone of what happened, they had Kaluj go a little bit aggressive, baited in Hanbin, put down the disruptor shot behind Hanbin, and forced Dallas Fuel into a more confined area with that mega pack, and then could simply take the poke fights as they wanted, and Dallas Fuel had to burst out of that area in order to try and contest, and then you're suffering from having to move through choke points.
Proper and Kilo have a total of 80 eliminations, 40 each. If you're going down, you're being buried by the DPS of the Shock. This was the fight-winning play here, and this is where yes, the Finn, it was dropped onto Kilo. At least
here, hold this.
At least he didn't jump to hug Violet or someone like that.
You've got a diffuser, right?
Edison and that pulse bomb, and even Hanbin's engaged on the Doomfist. This was like an emergency composition that actually won a fight.
Yeah, Dallas Fuel, turns out this is a pretty flexible roster, Lemon.
True.
Who'd have thunk it? We're all finding out new things today here at the Summer Showdown. San Francisco Shock roll out of sport. What? It's a very early fight from Dallas Fuel.
Okay, yeah, just saying hello, checking who's there. Hanbin's around, maybe trying to get a sneaky knife, but he has to be careful not to get knifed himself. Already down to half health, but as long as he's alive, he can generate support ult charge. But Edison has found the first hit onto Violet. The headshot that sent Shock packing, but Shock had a 2-minute advantage. They had 3 total minutes, so they have many more chances than the Fuel have.
I like the Dallas Fuel getting aggressive here. They're not allowing San Francisco to design these bespoke engagements that previously served them so well on point A, and instead making sure that San Francisco Shock are always catching the punches instead. Now Dallas Fuel, once again, the tempo is going to be swapped on up. They want to make sure that any counter plans San Francisco Shock came up with are going to be null and void for this particular engagement as Edison gets close to that rail.
Oh, no charge connection, no, and no ults. Shock, how long do they want to spend? They start to step up. Not really fully captured yet. They start working on that first take. Sparkle and friends are on the left building. Edison separated away. Shock will have to commit to either zone. Who is more important to the Shock? Well, what's more important is the point, actually. They've already captured one, and now a second tick before the Fuel have even shown themselves. Hanbin presents and starts contesting. Shock try to hide to make sure they're not going to get accidentally shot from Edison, but it's Edison at critical health and forces out the shot from the shout from Hanbin, but Shock get punished. Fuel have also built up towards ultimates, and Shock are only left with 1:22.
The target focus was not quite there, Lemon, even with an excellent fight that Shock had engineered for themselves. Where Dallas Fuel were going to have to move through the disruptor shot of Kilo. Alas, at least there is the saving grace of both Proper and Kilo are about to get their main tools online, the Overclock and the Blade. They can be readily answered though by Dallas Fuel. Both support ultimates good to go. As once more, remember, there's no room for error with one tick left to go.
Well, here's the first move. Fielder moves up with the rally, and Sparkle found even with the disruptor shot from Edison to peel for Proper. As now 46 seconds left, Shock finish up, capping the point, but it costed them the majority of their time bank.
I'll have a choice there to use the aggressive sound barrier as well as the overclock limit, because it forces Dallas Fuel to make a choice as to whether they're going to fight or disengage. And fighting's not in their interest, but disengaging also means that they can't stay in for that singular tick. Having given away those 2 ticks previously meant that that fight was always going to be set up for failure. However, the cost of that sound barrier means that now Sparkle is going to have a much harder blade to answer. Last time it was all about Kilo hitting the rail that was needed. Can the same magic be summoned by the rookie hit scan?
And this fight depends. Will Fuel go to match point? If they defend this, if they win, they will. And they can choose when to drop. And here's the first move. Sparkle with the blade chases down Violent. Vince Rally keeps the team up, but he's cut down by Chio of all people. A 5 versus 3. How do the Shock salvage this? Proper's blade was only a whisper, and it goes down with a whipper. Fuel still aren't out of this yet. Here's the Hanbin rampage to stop the Shock for once and for all, as it's only Finn left on the card, then the army of the Fuel to gas themselves up. The Fuel's overtime goes away, and they're going to match point.
A triple for Lucio. Chio demands cheers from our audience here in Toronto. Maybe that Rookie of the Year sign can stay. You know, I'll allow it, Lemon. Just this once. Dallas Fuel find themselves at match point, looking to repeat history and maybe even make it a touch cleaner.
Though there was one sign that said burn blue. No, seriously, it's freezing in here. Get your hoodie sales up. There's merch to be found here. Get all cozy, because it's 2-0 for the Fuel. Will they sweep the #2 team out of the, well, not out of the tournament, but into the lower bracket? We'll find out after this break.
2019 Overwatch League champions! Whoever said lightning doesn't strike twice has never met the San Francisco Shock.
Just the depth of talent on their roster that can't be denied.
Some of the most hardcore carry performances that I've ever seen.
This is going to be a wild ride.
Somehow Violet's going to come to the rescue, get a double kill. Kalu says, how about that one, Chief? See you later.
Dude, his aim is so crispy.
Man doesn't miss those. Holy cow.
Sam straight the backline, insta-killing. Oh, Mikey!
San Francisco, the greatest team in Overwatch.
The Shock playing from behind, but at least they have the support of the crowd, the family, and hey, even a map pick. But hey, it's not the first time Shock have been in this position. Remember their very first match against, no, I'm just thinking about the Fuel. Fueler now have turned things around from that. I keep forgetting who was losing to Justice at that point.
Well, let's just say this is not off-brand for Shock in this tournament. They have not been doing well on hybrid maps at all over the course of our Summer Showdown here in Toronto, Lemon. However, now, as we head over to Escort, this is, I believe, the map type that was won over Dallas Fuel in our previous qualifying matchup, which was 3-1 to the Dallas Fuel.
Yeah, just the fact that Shock have never won a hybrid this entire tournament, losing to Houston, losing to Vancouver Titans, and now at least this is more justified to the Dallas Fuel. So now Shock have really revealed their hand of what their map picks are. Not only the Lijiang Tower at the start, but this next one. The last time these two teams faced in the qualifier, Shock preferred Dorado, but this is a different story. They're going to go with the same map pick they did against Vancouver, against Houston. So this will be interesting. We'll pop that up on your screens. Here it is, Circuit Royale.
Heading to Escort. Gamers of Toronto, Madame Athletic Center. Do you believe in the San Francisco Shock? And who thinks this is going to be a sweep for the Dallas Fuel? The Fuel sound a little bit louder to me, Lemon.
See, saying kind of, or I don't know, doesn't have a good ring to it.
Maybe!
I don't know, because I mean, even the desk were split on predicting this winner. 3 of the desk members said Shock, 3 of them said Fuel. Really, I didn't know who was going to come out of this because Fuel struggled against the Justice in that reverse sweep that happened. Shock have only ever lost 1 map per series, whether it was against the Titans and Houston, always winning their series 3-1. Both these teams undefeated until this point, but they can still make a return. They can still get their revenge. This is the winner's side of the bracket, but it's going to be a longer journey if you have to drop down.
And you don't want to risk going up against a reinvigorated Toronto Defiant. They were looking good today, and they might go even further going up against the Florida Mayhem next up on your screens. And I know next up on the stage, our crowd is very much hyped for that. But right now, I'm only concerned with Circuit Royale here. It's going to be Dallas Fuel starting off on the defense. Edison, of course, moving away from the Ashe, preferring to stick now to this Sojourn, thinking that matching pace is going to be the key. And I think this is a great strategy against the San Francisco Shock, who likely came into this planning for Edison to once again try and get the Ashe differential onto them.
Looking for another spawn camp angle from the Dallas Fuel. No Finn piano?
So no tunes?
So no tunes? He usually gets the claws out and he puts on a good song, but we'll see if they'll be singing the same tune if they could go down 0-3. It's a minimum of $50,000 on the line for top 2. If Fuel get the sweep, Shock already under fire. They managed to at least break out a spawn as Edison jumps into the lap of Santa. It's proper, looking to deliver one wish, and it's death as Fielder tries to peel. Now he's getting booped into the line of fire. This is great coordination from the Shock to not be scared to leave their spawn and to punish Fuel for even being there.
The focus fire is good, and the fearlessness is even better. Lemon, that's the key to breaking out of a spawn. You've got to disregard your own life and simply take it from the enemy. Dallas Fuel don't get too much in the way of time taken from the San Francisco Shock bank, and they've also fed over a huge amount of support, I'll judge. I don't know what in the world Finn was up to during that fight, but he's already sitting at 65%, so man's been doing bits, Lemon.
Yeah, that last Fuel spawn camp, I mean, they must have just been so chaotic. They only got 1 kill out of that entire exchange? Well, there's a second one. Sparkle finds Kilo and starts to posture back to get healed back up because Sparkle was at half health, and so was Edison, as now they peer up around the corner. Shock takes shelter, and Fuel are looking to see if they can farm more, but Edison is taking a break. He's gonna play at range. Sparkle dashes back at 33 HP. That got so close.
So close, and yet no kill for the San Francisco Shock as they move back on over here, Lemon, to try and find themselves an opening. They are going to be able to move away to the second corner. That's a huge dash from Proper.
Oh, Hanbin and friends working together. He's looking to rally the team to defend point A. But Shock, I mean, don't have that initiator, and goodbye, Kilo. Goodbye, Shock, for now.
And this is where we've got to start talking about pressure, Lemon. When you're attacking first, especially when you're 2-0 down, and you're already half your time back. Nice little triple dink. When you're missing that reassuring point in the column when it comes to those map picks, you start to feel that weighty, heavy dread of being swept here by the Dallas Fuel, who are coming up on so many ultimates right now. It's sparkling like a Christmas tree up there, Lemon. I hope you're feeling ready.
Oh, I don't know if Fuel are ready. I think Hanbin just got pulled in, so they're forced to fight. Both support ultimates fought from either sides. Blades exchange, but only one overclock, and it's Kilos. But it hasn't found the connection that the Shock have needed yet. And with Fuel's pick onto Finn, the extended fight will only favor them in terms of survivability, as Shock are sent back again and only have a minute and a half, and they haven't even touched A yet.
Sparkle has come alive thus far. It has been a very tough attack here for San Francisco Shock. Is the mental broken? Is there nothing left? Kaluj, Cole Huge, the 6'5" gaming warlord, the powerhouse of a cell, the mitochondria of a San Francisco Shock. He must put his gaming family upon his shoulders and deliver with a rampage to end all rampages.
I've taught you some science, but we'll see if Shock are gonna learn a lesson. They're just trying to push the cart, because as soon as Fuel present themselves, this rampage could be massive. Kaluj is patient with it, as Edison at a distance has the overclock, and he cuts down Kaluj before he could even make a decision about his ultimate. And that passive, that indecision from Shock is costing them. They're 33 seconds away from getting swept, or just from not doing anything at A and getting swept.
Edison's a man of science. He's delivering direct current into the veins, into the synapses, into the nervous system of a San Francisco shocked by this. Now, once again, Kaluj, I must call upon you. Summon the energy for a big winners finals off the back of a massive rampage as Dallas Fuel disengage. It's Kaluj in time.
Oh, Kaluj got booped, and he knew this was the moment for the rampage, and he starts to focus down Fielder. Couldn't get the knife connection as Fuel turned to deal with this tank, and Kaluj didn't get enough help. The support ultimates were used last fight. It's overtime, and Shock need to cap A, or this will not be good for their chances, and they can't even approach to keep it going. Fuel are a fortress.
Let me tell you about my boy Fielder. Blocking that rampage with his shield, making sure that the disengagement did not have to be full-fledged from the Dallas Fuel. Making sure they could safely hand out those armor packs to where they were needed. Someone on Dallas Fuel became a faux frontline. Might have been Hanbin, might have been Sparkle. It was out of our reach and out of our view. But the rest of San Francisco Shock, they had no designs on joining Kaluj in that dive. That's all you, bro. You got to follow up on your own rampage. And San Francisco Shock, I'm starting to feel that the comms are beginning to break on down, Lemon. The pressure is starting to mount, and now even more so. It has got to be a fuller hold, or it's lower brackets for the Kings to be.
Shock went from initiating fights on Hollywood, taking fights on their terms, to Kaluj being hit with this important decision of whether to commit the rampage just to cap A, or wanting to commit the rampage for the momentum push that came afterwards. But you gotta walk before you run, and Shock just fall over. I've never seen Shock struggle this much on the biggest of stages. They'll have a second life if things don't go well. But this is just not going well at all. We'll see how much time they can take away from this spawn camp. They'll need to force as many fights as possible to hope to hold Fuel at A and keep the series alive.
It feels like it's Dallas Fuel's grand final to lose at this point. A rotation out the left-hand side. San Francisco aren't there waiting, so there's a little bit of space to work with. And we know exactly what Edison's been able to do with that space in times past. It's been a standout series for him.
Sparkle dashes in, and he doesn't have the reset yet, but he's getting packed and he's getting help. Fuel still have respawns close away, as Proper in danger, trying to take shelter around the cart. As Shock, I mean, they find themselves not where they want to be. Fuel, they start to shout, and they surge into the supports of Shock, and dice them up, ready to serve, and Fuel go on forward.
It's smelling like a sweep in here, Lemon. Dallas Fuel sends San Francisco Shock reeling. Yes, 40 seconds have been burned, but they've been converted readily into ultimate charge for the Dallas Fuel. It's Fielder once again. Look at the differential here between Fielder and Finn. This is madness. This isn't even mathematics at this point. Proper, yes, moving in towards the blade, but San Francisco Shock now have only got one fight to play with. They didn't dare take two, considering that they need to try and find themselves a fuller hold.
That rally could make a world of a difference to give Fuel a top 2 spot if it overwhelms the Shock enough just on pure survivability and resources. As Shock give up the space, they'll at least have some cover from around the room. They can access the fashion show room if they want to have access to Dallas Fuel's backline. But Shock now only have a few meters to defend, and it's a first pick from Fuel, who send their supports to boop Shock forward. It's a Soundbeer engage from Violet, but they're not really doing anything with this fight. They're waiting for the proper blade, and Fuel realizes they use the shout. They start to focus him down, and Kaluge is a countermeasure that Shock needed at this point, and Fuel have made the space. They get to the finish line, and they sweep the Shock to the lower bracket.
The Fuel Lemon, it's burning bright, it's burning blue, and it's burning strong. Maybe this is the tournament where Dallas Fuel will finally claim the title, but eluded them at their own homestand in Texas, coming back stronger on the third time around. The San Francisco Shock have a lot to think about after today.
Fuel, they won the match in the qualifier, but now won it even more decisively in the tournament when Shock did everything to prepare. They revealed their map picks as well, not even taking a single map, to getting full health on circuit, to starting off this entire series. The Shock started the first round of Lijiang Tower 100-0. Proper's dropping 20 bombs. He's putting on a deadlift. But it was the Shock that ran out of fuel at the end of the day.
Shock simply could not find the inroads to penetrate the backline of the Dallas Fuel. We saw Chio get multiple opening frags on the Lucio. So impressive on the main support to be the entry fragger, finding Proper multiple times, finding Kilo at the end of that ultimate fight at the end of Circuit Royale as well. Each and every member of the Fuel pulled their weight, and they pulled it well, and we saw that Edison was willing to try and take this backseat, going over back onto the Sojourn to make sure that there was enough space for everyone else to get the attention that they needed, because Edison knew, while I'm playing the Ashe, yes, I'm popping off. I'm doing a bunch of damage, but it means that I require so many resources from Fielder. Hanbin's got to play differently too.
Dallas Fuel return to the grand finals for the first time since the kickoff clash, but missing out on the crown, a minimum of $50,000. But there's one special person on the stage we want to hear from after such a glorious win over one of their toughest competitors. Let's hear it from Danny on the stage.
Thank you guys very much. What is up, everybody? I'm here joined now by Hanbin from Dallas Fuel for the post-match interview. Before I start the interview, I just have to ask, why are you so good? 자, 인터뷰 시작하기 전에 왜 이렇게 잘하세요? 제 첫 번째 질문입니다.
저도 잘 모르겠어요. 하다 보니까 이렇게 됐어요.
I honestly don't know why I'm so good. I just kept practicing. I just got here. Yeah, I think you're just built different. I mean, another victory against the San Francisco Shock, and you know this was another 3-0 victory against the San Francisco Shock. So do you feel like there's a weakness to the San Francisco Shock, knowing that, I mean, not only you guys beat them once, I mean, you guys 3-0'd them once in the qualifiers, but you guys 3-0'd them again today. So what do you think the San Francisco Shock's weakness is? 자, 오늘뿐만이 아니라 또 저희 또 예선전에서도 센쇼가 경기에서 3-0으로 달라스가 승리를 하셨는데요. 좀 어떻게 한빈 선수 보셨을 때 센쇼의 좀 약점 같은 게 좀 보이나요?
센쇼는 근데 전체적인 밸런스가 매우 맞는 팀이라서 솔직히 약점이라 할 게 많이 없어서 그냥 샌프란시스코를 이기는 방법은 그냥 약점이라고 하면은 그냥 피지컬로 찍어 누르거나 솔직히 머리로는 이기기 조금 힘든 것 같아서 그냥 피지컬이 더 좋아야 되는 방법밖에 없는 것 같아요.
Okay. So Hamid says that, because San Francisco Shock is a very well-balanced team, so the only way to really beat them is either you have to be very mechanically good or you have to outsmart them, but that's really not a good idea because they are such a great team. So you have to sort of beat them mechanically, one by one. Can I assume that because you gave me that answer, that means Dallas Fuel is just better mechanically than San Francisco Shock? 방금 말씀하신 거를 이렇게 토를 달자면 이제 한빈 선수가 보실 때는 달라스 팀이 좀 이제 피지컬적으로는 센쇼보다 훨씬 위다. 좀 이런 말인가요?
네. 물론 저희가 이제 피지컬은 무조건 위고 그 이제 센쇼의 코치진들이 이제 진짜 머리를 너무 잘 써서 그것만 조심하면 진짜 이길 것 같습니다.
All right, definitely. The San Francisco Shock's coaching staff are very intelligent, so they do have the brains. But mechanically speaking, we are better than the San Francisco Shock. Yeah, of course, and of course that is why you got the win against them today. Before I send you off, one final question. I think Hollywood was a very interesting match because on the overtime, you switched over to Doomfist to get on the point, and then you stuck to the Doomfist, and I think that was like sort of how you guys got the win. So I just want to ask you, was there a specific reason why you stayed on the Doomfist and not change back to the Jungle Queen? 자, 마지막으로 보내드리기 전에 이번 헐리우드 맵에서 이제 한빈 선수가 둠피로 갔다가 이제 다시 정커 퀸으로 갈 줄 알았는데 안 가고 둠피로 계속 하시더라고요, 오버타임 때. 좀 그거에 대한 좀 이렇게 특별한 이유가 있었나요?
그냥 제가 스크림 때 둠피를 조금 좋아하기도 했고 그냥 저번 시즌 이제 둠피 메타였잖아요. 근데 제가 둠피를 못한 거에 대한 약간 한이랄까? 그래서 한번 여기서 풀어보려고 좀 했던 것 같아요.
It's because I really loved using Doomfist during scrims and practice, and you guys all know how it was a Doomfist meta last stage. But unfortunately, I didn't get to play, so I was a little bit sad. So I wanted to sort of get that out of the way in today's matches, and whenever I can get my hands on Doomfist, that's how I wanted to do it on Hollywood. All right, Hanbin, thank you so much for all of your amazing answers. Everybody, give it up for Hanbin one more time. Big congratulations
Thank you.
on the
감사합니다.
win. With that being said, let's send things back to our casters. Take it away.
The Doom Fist has been brought out, but so has the Doom, the Dallas Fuel in the grand finals, like I said, for the first time since kickoff Clash. But it was Gladiators that stood in their way last time, and
Where they at, though?
Where they at, though? I didn't see no purple here. So will the Shock return to get their revenge? Well, they're going to have to go through the lower bracket to even see if they make it.
Yeah, there are two teams that are waiting there for our lower semis. It's going to be Toronto and Florida Mayhem. And of course, we've got the home crowd buff for Toronto Defy. But Florida Mayhem are coming out swinging recently. But I want to just think about what we just saw. Because honestly, I don't think anyone expected for this match to be as one-sided as it was in favor of the Dallas Fuel. And honestly, again and again, it was Hanbin who was making the difference. All the way back to Lijiang Tower, it felt like that fight being stolen by the Hanbin four-man rampage. It might have just mentally broken Shock for the entirety of that series afterwards.
And just speaking to a lot of teams this tournament, mental is so important because the pressure and the stakes are so much higher. I mean, that last match, $50,000 minimum for top two. Dallas Fuel has cashed in, but there's one person who is the most valuable member on the team, the one who clutched up on Control Center and helped them get the victory on the map. Your player of the match is Hanbin.
If you say robbed, you are simply wrong, my friend, because Hanbin is the warlord. I called him the best Junker Queen in the world, and I stand by it, baby. This is a person who understands more than any other when to rampage, when to axe, and how to win in this meta, and even doing it on the Doomfist as well. Yeah, the meta might be over, but Hanbin is forever.
Wow, I didn't even see that punch. Shock got tossed. They won a fight with the Doomfist, and then that clutch Addison post bomb. I mean, we're highlighting Hanbin, but everyone from Fuel played out of their minds. The best performance all tournament, all season. It felt like we just witnessed it. And it's not over yet. They still got to go to the finals. For deaths to be only about 4.7 is extremely low for someone who's taken the amount of pressure that Hanbin has. And how survivable is your Junker Queen is what really sets Hanbin apart.
Lemon, what is this? What is this?
I don't know.
This is a stat brick, Lemon.
Oh, okay.
And it's an incredibly impressive one from Hanbin. The Rampage kills for 10 minutes might look a little bit low, but the critical thing is that Humbin was also using Rampages, but maybe not got the kills, but also allowed him the sustainability to survive in fights where really shouldn't, particularly that one on Lijiang Tower. I'm going to keep dragging your mind back to it. He hit 4 people with that Rampage. That's 400 wounds damage, and that heals for 100%. So Humbin's getting 400 healing over the course of the next few seconds. That's essentially like having a mercy pocket the entire time, and that allows him to keep that point contested in overtime for the rest of the team to come on back, and that is why Humbin is so clutch.
Well, I'm sorry about London not being here anymore, but there's a different blue team you could cheer for now that the Talus Fuel are in the finals. But that match was a banger, but it wasn't even the last one of the day. We have one more yet to go. We're going to hear from the Watchpoint post desk to hear all about it. We'll see you there.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Upper Deck, the official trading card of the Overwatch League, and by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back. We got to break down that epic winners bracket finals. Epic for one of us in the room. He goes by the name of Jonathan Reinforced Larson, and he has been bragging since map number 1. Meanwhile, Custa has already started frying some flapjacks, getting prepared for his syrup chug off tomorrow.
How did this happen? San Francisco Shock, I believed in you. Look at how much syrup this is. This is an unreasonable amount of syrup.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of syrup.
The good news is you don't have to chug it yet. Only if your team doesn't win the tournament, which is bad news if you watch the games. Let's take a look at some of these highlights. Johnny kicked me off because I thought it was going to be the Shock opening up with the control win. Instead, Dallas Fuel come out with a 3-0 sweep in our winner bracket final.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you how they did it. It felt like the Dallas Fuel were always on the back foot. It felt like the San Francisco Shock came out here on Lijiang Tower and set the pace. You can see yourself, 99%, one round to the San Francisco Shock, and Hanbin comes in here with an amazing play, 2 versus 5 with Fielder to turn things around, and then just sweeping this third round here on Lijiang Tower. And from then on, like, dude, these fights here, they're not supposed to win these. They were down a man, they were down 2 players, they threw in some ultimates, the Sound Bear here from Chio, the Dragon Blade from Sparkle, and they just kept turning these fights around. Similarly here in Hollywood. I mean, the San Francisco Shock with an incredible time bank, proper, with some unreal statistics, and still it was the Dallas Fuel who came out on top. I cannot exactly tell you how the Dallas Fuel managed to do this, because it was just unbelievable to see them stay in this game. And
there was Tracers, there was Doomfist on this map.
How did they win the overtime?
Deep in the well.
Like, how did they win this overtime? We're on Hollywood. All of a sudden, Dallas switches to Tracer and Doomfist to get the final touch, and I have no idea how they managed to win that team fight. And then they were able to push it halfway through the second point. The San Francisco Shock, it felt like in those big chaotic fights, the ones that really matter for the map determining moments, the Shock just sort of went absent. And I think the Dallas Fuel had an interesting strategy heading into this one as well, because it felt like they were putting so much pressure onto Kalush in the front line. He was just permanently such low health, and it made it hard for them to play their game.
Well, gentlemen, I've seen their record. The Shock have a pretty darn good one if you're looking at the win rate. The losses, though, are starting to add up against the Fuel, and I have to question, does having rookies on this lineup hurt the Shock right now? That game 3 was the worst of any of them they played in this series.
Yeah, I think you can absolutely make that argument, right? Like, a lot of the players from the San Francisco Shock just did not show up at the level that they needed to. These are the important matches. These are the clinch ones. You can win as many regular season matches as you want, and they will even tell you this themselves. If you do not win the tournament matches, nothing else matters.
Johnny, we got to talk about one special tank here. And Custa, you can't be too mad. You picked them for your all-star team. Hanbin and Fielder clutching up in one of the biggest moments we have seen of the Summer Showdown. Walk me through this play-by-play.
So this is probably the best play of the tournament so far. The San Francisco Shock, they have 99% here on Control Center on Lijiang Tower, and they're about to win the map. The Dallas Fuel stalling things down to the very last moment with Hanbin rampaging in here, hitting 4 people, a massive rampage. Then the Carnage acts as well. That's going to keep Hanbin alive. It's unbelievable the damage he's able to put out here, and Fielder backing him up in the process. Hits a knife onto Violet here and finishes off the final member of the team, Kalush, as well. Fielder, he is the unsung hero here as well, because he throws an armor pack here to Hanbin as he goes in. So not only does he have the Carnage healing, he also gets the armor pack, finishes it off proper here in the corner as well on the Genji. But this turnaround from the Dallas Fuel, from here on out, Lijiang Tower was honestly just their map. This is one of the best turnarounds, as good as I've ever seen it in Overwatch. And I've been in this scene for like 6 years now. This is an amazing fight here. I can't believe Hanbin and Fielder pulled this one out of the bag, and that was something special.
And I kind of felt like that was the mental boom moment.
Yeah.
Proper had, what, 2 deaths before that moment when he gets pinned against the corner, and then all of a sudden, Dallas starts taking away these games one at a time.
This is why also, as a Dallas Fuel, believer and all that, like, I'm pretty worried still, because it felt like Shock, they should have been up 1-0 in this series. Even Hollywood, they had a 3-minute time bank. They should have won that overtime. So even though it's a 3-0, it's about the minor details. The Shock are not out of it yet.
Scott, you haven't started chugging that syrup, and for one main reason. Can we talk about the guy who's still giving you hope?
Look at okay, I'm going to show you a stat card here, and just forget about the series. You can look at this stat card and be like, this guy was the MVP of the match. This guy
of the match, guys.
is putting up some of the best stats. Look at this. He had 13.4 final blows per 10, 4.9 deaths per 10. That is a ridiculous stat card for a player that lost 3-0. he was doing his job. He was putting out that work. It was just the rest of the Shock could not put it together. Proper was putting them up in the situation to succeed, yet moments like that Harbin one happen time and time again. It just slipping through their hands in the moments they think, and ultimate usage went out the window, and you saw that primarily on Circuit Royale, where it just felt like they didn't even put up a contest.
I'm with you guys in the chat. I think this was Krusty just big braining it, saying, hey, after we lose game one, let's just throw the rest. We'll beat them in the best of 7 tomorrow.
Yeah.
But the Shock, they're now in trouble. Let's take a look at these brackets here, guys, because Dallas Fuel, you only have one more series left to play in this tournament. That is your grand finals. Everyone else fighting for a spot to play against you in the lower bracket. We now, of course, have the Toronto Defiant ready to take this stage. They'll be facing off against the Mayhem. The winner, though, has to play against a very angry Shock here, Custa.
Yeah, this is a tool loss for Toronto Defiant or the Florida Mayhem, but it's about taking one match at a time. As we said, for all we know, the San Francisco Shock could come out boom. So maybe we see the Florida Mayhem in the grand finals. I can't believe this is a timeline that is realistic.
Speaking of the Florida Mayhem, Zoe was the only expert to predict Florida winning that game. The 8 seed is still alive, but now they're playing against the hometown squad. Talk to me about this final matchup here on day 3.
This is going to be an incredible matchup. Toronto Defiant with the crowd in their backs, but the Florida Mayhem, they're coming fresh off of the reverse sweep against the London Spitfire. I really think this is going to be a close one. Throw all the past matches just out the window, because this is going to be an unprecedented banger.
Let's break it down, Custa. If you're digging into this, if you're looking for the difference maker, comparing the lineups, clearly we got to talk about the supports for Florida. They're doing it weird. They're not doing it all the time anymore, but they could catch you off guard. On the other side, what's Toronto bringing to the table?
Toronto's playing a lot of Ashe, and I'm kind of curious on see how that matchup works, because when you're playing the Ashe, you want to sit back and you want to get that damage out with the dynamite from the long range. If you're playing the double flex support, you want to sit back, put in the damage. So they're going to have the same strategy, just completely different looks of it. So I'm curious to see if the Florida Mayhem are going to bring that out more, or they're going to bring out less with that in mind, because if they leave Hisu unchecked, we've seen that's a terrible strategy. But if you leave Sir Margette unchecked, that's also a terrible strategy. So it's going to be a clash of styles that we've never seen before.
Well, both of you have this matchup wrong in your bracket, but I got to know, where are we leaning? I know Zoe's probably